Welcome everyone, this is Poundleaf Needles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week we have with us Stanswinda.
I think that's all we're getting from her this week.
Yeah. Guerendis.
Good evening, everyone.
And Krister.
Hello.
Hello everyone. And this week we actually have some news from Standing Stone Games because they have presented us with a little look at what's coming in 2023. And this is not technically a producer's letter. This is instead a letter to the players, which I guess is what they'll be calling them this year because they've decided that since we don't have a producer right now, it's difficult to get out a producer's letter. So they decided, let's have a roadmap as to what's coming on this year. So we're going to have a look at this and see how excited we are of the various aspects of what's coming up. And we're going to begin with, first off, there is going to be a new instance cluster with 2 3-player instances, a 6-player instance, and a raid.
Ooh.
Are you excited about the raid, Krister?
Perhaps. We don't do good in raids, frankly. But
well, you at least get down to the tier 1, right?
Yeah, but we'll try. We'll try to try.
All right. And from what I hear, this is going to be held at that wonderful day spa of Angmar, Karndum.
Yay!
Yes. So that means our next update is probably going to be called something like Return to Karndum, where we are going to head back to there and find out what is now happening there ever since the Mordred has fallen. We've had the Sauron has fallen, so therefore there's no more Witch King. The Angrim are trying to have schemes all over the place. For example, we ran into them with various schemes over in Gundabad. So what's our response to them in Gundabad? How is that going to affect what's going on in Angmar? So I presume
it looks like the pictures that they're taking up horticulture. So anyway.
Oh, they have to. They have to support. I think they're opening 3 Cracker Barrels, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Well, I suppose that's always a possibility. Is perhaps they're going to go into horticulture. Somehow, though, if we're thinking about the Angrim, usually when they take up something, they usually corrupt it some way. So I am not going to be assuming that their horticulture is going to be healthy for us.
Well, maybe you look at the corruption as like spice, so you could have regular potatoes or you could have corrupt potatoes. Maybe they taste maybe they're a little spicier.
Well, spicy might be an understatement. Yes, Sam. Evil Angrim flora. That is what we're going to be seeing. We have to see about that. But anyway, 2 3-player instances, a 6-player, and a raid set in Karndum. So that could be quite interesting to see what's going on in there. And the next thing that they've announced is that they are going to have some additions to Delvings. They've been saying that when they first introduced Delvings that they plan to add various things to it along as we go. And during the first quarter release, they plan to have adding 2 instances that are going to be getting Delvings. And of course, they're the same as ones that they said back in the fall. And that is the school and the library will be the first non-mission instances that are going to be receiving Delvings. Now, I suspect that since I don't play school and library all that often, that I suspect it's not going to affect me all that much. I don't know how often you guys play it.
It's been a long time, but I used to play that all the time. And so...
Well, yeah, but that was because they weren't, cycling through things. Anyway.
Yeah, I would just need to know if they're any faster, because, one element was running everything around for quite a while.
well, considering the fact that there's Delvings, I'd say no. But your mileage may vary.
Yes. Now, they're also planning on doing some tweaks to the delving rewards.
Maybe a little less umber dye, a little more useful things.
I think maybe there was intimations, I think, from Cord that maybe we won't get the lower level crafting mats on the really higher tier ones, but I don't know why they couldn't put in like a pick-a-box type of thing like you get for rewards when you're doing the in-game stuff anyway, where you can decide what level you want of mats.
Well, there is that. Then again, if they're going to drop crafting materials in a delving, seeing how delvings are only at cap level anyway, shouldn't they be dropping at level for the character running the delving?
Oh, stop making sense.
How dare you? Yeah.
And the reason why I had to word it that way is simply because if you're on a legendary server, then you're of course it's not going to be 140 as the cap. It's going to be whatever the server cap is. All right, so changes to delvings as they go along with there. The third item that they have mentioned are targeted class updates, and it looks like that we're going to have class updates for a large number of classes all throughout the year. So they'll be working on classwork all throughout the year, and that the first two to get changed for the first quarter update will be the captain and the warden.
No.
No. You don't want them to change the captain? You saying the captain is perfect as it is right now?
Well, what I dread is when they're saying that they're making the changes, because that doesn't ever feel like a positive thing to me anymore. So that's feels like we're going to get punished in some other way, you know.
Oh,
your weapons have to remain sheathed during combat. What?
Well, that would be rather difficult for the captain, since many captains use halberds, and you don't sheathe halberds. Well, at least not realistically. I know in the game they have you sheathe them, but
yeah, where do we put them? Because they completely disappear. That's disturbing.
Yeah,
are they like telescoping? Maybe that we have
Yeah, I don't know about that. There's a reason why halberds aren't used as sidearms. Yes, but anyway, one of the classes that's going to changing is the captain, and I figure that Krister has been known to play a captain on occasion, right?
It's the only thing that matters to me in LOTRO.
So you really don't want them to make any changes that are going to make you scream.
Well, it's more that for me, it's always if the change makes some kind of sense, or if you can rationalize the change to me, you can convince me that even if I might not like the change, that I can accept the change. Some of the changes that they make, you're just like, why on earth did this change? Why did this change? You know, so one of two of my big gripes would be, I would like to see them remove the restriction that I have to stand still while doing my 2-person in combat res. I used to not be able to. I used to be able to be in motion while doing that, and my argument is the captain's in motion. The captains in the front lines running back and forth. All of their skills should be usable while they're running around. You know, and then of course the other one that's majorly frustrating is the Shield of the Dunedain. Being unable to cast it on myself anymore. Well, that removed. I think that's why, you know, and that's the grudging one where I just have to bite my tongue. I think is that did make captains very powerful tanks, and I think that was too unbalanced when you're dealing with a guardian, where you know if guardians you lose that primary ability to be the tank, then what's the point of having him? So I could see where that changed. But the in motion for my in combat res, that's the big one for me. If they could change that back, I can accept a lot of other things.
Well, I guess we're going to find out when the first Bulwark build comes out. I'm guessing that's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks when we have our first Bulwark run, and then we could see what are they planning to change on the captain, and of course, what they're planning on changing on the warden. And try to think, all right, what on the warden needs changing?
All of their gambits are going to become twice as hard.
I hope not. I remember the last significant change that I recall on the warden, at least the one that really impacted how I play, was at one point, whenever you dropped out of combat, your gambits cleared out. This was the case on how it went until the release of Helm's Deep, when you had epic battles. And the frustration I ran into was that I would have I would build up a gambit, I would have all this built up, the enemy dies, and now I have this gambit in an unknown state that's not going to clear out unless I'm out of combat for at least 10 seconds or some wild number like that. And if the next wave comes in too fast, sometimes I've got an idea where I'm at and I'm able to adjust to it and take advantage of it. But usually it gets me to a strange state where I have to go and hit with this unfinished state that I'm in so I can get back into the flow. So sometimes it takes me 5 or 10 seconds to get into the flow of the combat because there was already something inside the queue. And I think the one thing I would really like them to do, though, is if they're going to leave things up, your gambit builders up after combat, when you drop out of combat, if you're going to do that, could they at least allow you to use the gambit clear abilities while you're out of combat also, so that if you don't want them in there, you can at least hit that, and then you can start fresh on the next round, and that if you want to keep those builders up, then you just don't touch those clear functions.
Well, that's what I was going to ask: is there an equivalent to the Roomkeeper's clear that they can do? And sound, I agree with you. That totally would make sense.
The clear is only usable in combat.
Yeah, so to just have the clear stuff be usable, regardless of your state, would be a good. That would be a good change. That sounds.
Yeah, we'll see what they're planning on changing for the warden. Said, I'm sure we're going to find out when they have the first bowler build.
Wardens can no longer eat travel rations. They're picky eaters.
But travel rations no longer exist, so.
Do they? I think I've got some rotting in my bank right now.
Okay. Okay. Guarendis, do you often play a warden or a captain?
My warden is an excellent woodcrafter. She's level 21 and she lives in the Bree crafting hall. I have played captain some. I haven't played it higher in game. I will point out that Luanori had said a little while ago in chat that he's seen screenshots of very early captain change ideas and he's cautiously optimistic. He does play it in game. He's usually the captain and I'm the hunter going pew pew behind him and burning everything down.
Okay.
I have played up through level 30 on a dwarf captain and have been enjoying it. But yeah, these changes will probably not affect me terribly deeply. I will adjust.
Very well, until they announce the hunter changes later on in the year or something like that.
Oh, I'm just sitting there going, okay, you guys said you're going to look at power and power
that's
consumption.
The next thing I'm going. Yeah, that's the next
Hunters
thing.
Hunters have the line that I'm running in. Hunters have a skill to help return power. Don't be tinkering with my power returned.
All right, actually, okay, I'll go into that. They are going to have a power revamp during the first quarter release, and they're going to be taking a look at power because right now, power is one of those things that you either have too much of it and it has absolutely no effect on the fight, or you've got none of it and you can't do anything at all. That's way, especially when they had that bug that they fixed last year, where the power was, where the diseases were draining power at a really bad rate when you're at high levels. So when that was going on, you very often would be in a state where you had no power. When you had no power, you can't do anything. They have at one point, power seems to be who cares about power, and on the other hand, is that the one time that you did care about power is when you have it at 0, in which case you can't do anything, and a lot of classes couldn't do anything as well. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find a way in which to make power a more useful stat on this. Now, I don't think they have everything solidified yet, but I got the impression what they're thinking of doing is that power consumption is going to be associated with your more powerful abilities, and that there isn't going to be much power or no power needed for, I guess, for your middle ones, and that every class is going to have some sort of power regeneration skill. And what happens is the power regeneration skills will be associated with their less powerful skills. And you have this balance of trying to balance when to use your more powerful skills and when to use your less powerful skills. Your less powerful skills getting you some power, and your more powerful skills using up your power. So that at least you can do something even if you have no power is one of the upshots of that.
And to also be clear, the implication that I got from what they said was this is going to be in things like running in-game rating, things like that. You're going to be looking at that kind of content. They said that for PvE, it really shouldn't affect.
That's because in
much.
landscape, the mobs are all going to be dead before you have any
Well, they aren't
issues with power.
Yeah, you aren't dealing with the higher mechanics and the concentration of mobs.
It's concentration of mobs, and very often in landscape, you could probably you can get away with just using your lower and your middling ones might be enough in which to do your battle, in which case you might not be touching as often your high-end ones, except, I mean, there's this joke, for example, we're running in Cardaland right now. We have the joke where the mobs are dead before we could use our best skills.
Well, that's often the complaint when you have hunters grouping with your melees.
Right.
Is that the melees get pretty upset about arriving at each target right when they're dead and filled with arrows, So.
Yeah, they're filled with arrows, or they're sparking with lightning from.
But that's part of the riddle of steel, Pine Leaf. See that the melees have to understand that the sacrifice of them being able to engage in hand-to-hand combat is that often they don't get to do it because the range guys take all the credit.
I guess we're going to have to see what exactly they mean by this when we.
I feel like it's negative. I feel like it's punishment. That's what I'm right off the bat. I don't feel it's like, oh, we're concerned about how much power you guys can manage, and it's like, no, what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to make everything more expensive because we don't have power issues right now. That's the bottom line. I don't have power issues right now. That's
going to be universally the case.
Well, you're just fine. You're more positive than I am.
Well,
okay.
I was saying 2 to 3 weeks, assuming I've got the timeline for Bulwer correct. We will see the first Bulwer pass, and maybe we will be able to find out what they really mean by power revamp.
You one swing of your sword, all your power's gone. But it's amazing. I mean, truly, it is amazing. I mean, my captain is very, very tough until you take his power, and then he's dead. And then dead.
That's the problem with many classes is they seem to be very, very powerful and then nothing. And that sharp line, I think, is one of the things that they want to address in there.
Yeah, so I guess that was my curiosity because Cian said in chat, she says Bjorning's Wrath. The captains have an equivalent of a power regen. I thought all classes did. Am I mistaken in that?
Well, we have like Wrath, hunters have focus. I mean, each class has a different one that you have to manage for skills, but
Yeah, so I'm curious if that's an enhancement of those skills or if they're going to be introducing new things.
We'll have to see what they're going to be doing.
True.
As for Bjornings, they did say that they are going to be looking into Wrath also, in addition to Power, since that's what the Bjornings use instead of Power. In other words, Bjornings aren't going to get a freebie, I think, from this particular review and an update. As they are going to be looking into the resource management for Bjornings in addition to the rest of the classes. We'll have to see. Next, they have announced that they are going to be working on crafting revisions this year. And during the first quarter, the biggest change that they have coming in the first quarter update is the removing of vocations. And in case you're wondering what are vocations, those are those sets of 3 where you go and say, oh, I want this vocation, such as historian, and when you take historian, you are pegged to have these three crafting. I can't remember what they call them. You got the vocations as the set, and I can't forget what they call the individual lines to it. But you have 3 specific crafting lines that are associated with each vocation, and instead you'll be able to choose any 3 you want.
Interesting. Well, okay, so how does that? I guess you just have to reset yourself if you want to take advantage.
Well, I was going to say, how is that going to affect currently?
Well,
completely maxed out crafters.
Just let it all go.
Yeah, if you are completely maxed out, if you're completely maxed out, I don't think you're going to be changing any of your trees. So if you keep your trees if you stay in the same 3 professions, then it's not going to affect you in any way. But for example, I have a character that's a tinker. I have very, very high on the jeweler side. I have very, very high on the second, on the prospecting one. So those are pretty high. The third one, I can't even remember what the third one is. Maybe I would like to replace it with something that I would find useful instead of something that I've been ignoring all this time. If I'm a historian, you get farming, you get scholar, and you get, I think, is it weapon? It's either weaponsmith or metalworking. One of those that's completely unrelated to the other 2. And right now, I didn't even look at that. I don't think I even took the starting quest for that third one on my scholar. Maybe I could replace it with cooking so that I can have something that will use the farming that I've already got.
Yeah, so I think that's the question: is are you going to be able to reset individually?
I think
or are you going to have to reset the whole thing in order to take advantage of the new change?
I would hope. Look, if they don't allow you to reset them individually, there would be such a cry. Anyway, even if you did research them together, currently, if you change vocations, if there's an overlapping one, you keep all your progress to the ones that overlap. It's only the ones that changed are the only ones that are zeroed out.
Okay.
That's the way it currently works. So I don't think they're going to change that behavior. I mean, if they did, the forums will be filled with complaints the 5 seconds after it hits forward.
And that would be different from
I was gonna say I'll be able to heat my house with the amount of fire on the forums if that was the
Yes. yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
talk about a wonderful, unending energy source if the human race could utilize it. The angst on the internet as heat energy. We could power the entire galaxy.
Yeah, but you don't want that much
humankind is
power.
saved.
This is boundless, limitless.
Boundless, limitless, and it won't possibly like melt all the way through the core of the earth like fusion. Great.
Oh, don't doubt our apathy. Oh, that's too funny.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have the same attitude you do, Pilot, which is they're going to approach it the right way, and because I agree, I literally have two. I think every single profession I've got, I have two of them that are maxed out, and the other one is just this nothing. I would have been. I never worked up, So to be able to reset that, because I think there's in a lot of instances, just setting it for the gathering skills, or the prospecting or something like that. Combining that with a lot of other things would have made a lot more sense to me. So I do like that change, the idea of it. So.
Yeah, expect a lot of people to have 3 gathering skills.
Yeah.
Next, we have the return of the Ill Omens event, because there was a hiatus on the Ill Omens event last year because they decided they needed to revamp it. So the Ill Omens is going to be returning this year. I have no idea if Doom of Karis Gelebrin is going to be in that. I'm just trying to think, where would you put an Ill Omen in Doom of Karis Gelebrin? Because right now, the periphery of that skirmish is one big Ill Omen as it is, because you got Sauron running around.
Yeah, I was gonna say the whole thing's kind of an ill omen.
Yes. So maybe they aren't going to give any Ill Omens to that one and just keep it on the existing ones. So I have no idea what the revamp is going to be, but we'll see, because I know there were a couple of shaky things in the Ill Omens thing, because some of those harbingers were a little bit out of sync, I think, with what really should be doing. Then also they said that they're going to have some monster play events, but I noticed that they are saying that with a little bit of trepidation, because the trouble with monster play events is trying to have a monster event that doesn't create situations where you've got 200 people all gathered in the same spot. Because you know what happens when 200 people all gather in the same spot in the Etmars?
A slideshow.
Yes. You get a slideshow in there. So I have no idea what they're planning to do in order to have a monster play event that doesn't create one big slideshow. And of course, the winter update, the Q1 update, is going to be having the updates that are going to be for the Spring Festival, which will be probably following a week or two after the Q1 update. So I have a feeling that the Q1 update is going to be in mid-March. It's going to be my guess on that matter. And with Bulwer bills being in the course of February, we'll have to see. Now, that's of course for Q1. They also talked about some of what they're playing on Q2, where we're going to have the 16th anniversary, of course, and they're also going to have some, they're calling it landscape updates. I'm not completely sure what they mean by, I can't remember whether they were talking about aesthetics on the landscape, or if they were talking about how landscape mobs work, or they're talking about a couple of things on this. But I think something being in conjunction with their plans of heading into returning to Gondor, because they are planning to have as a full version of Gondor, or at least a significant portion of Gondor, without Dawnless Day. In other words, post war Gondor, where you could run around, have a nice, bright, sunny times, no more war camps all over the place. I mean, you're going to have your threats that are around there, because you know how the enemy is. They always have some sort of threat going along in there that we're trying to handle or whatever. But we're not going to have this huge, large war groups in there. We're going to have an area that looks like that they're probably rebuilding someplace. We're probably going to have some sort of quests that are going to involve trying to get Gondor rebuilt and fixed up from all the devastation that was done during the War of the Ring. And that is part of the preparation for where we're going to be moving next after that. And of course, they'll be having more class updates, more crafting updates, more monster play updates, and of course the Midsummer Festival, which I'm sure they're going to try to tie in the updated Gondor to tie in with the Midsummer Festival, so maybe that there will be an access point in there from there, because right now Minas Tirith is, how many versions of Minas Tirith do we got right now?
That's a good question.
I mean, we have the siege version. I mean, the first version of it. And then you have the Denethor Bad Dream version of it. And then you have the post-battle version of it. And then you've got the wedding version of it. So I'm guessing that there will be another version added onto this. That I don't know if it's pre-wedding where they're building things up, or if it's post-wedding or what. I guess we'll find out when that comes out.
Well, remember in the wedding questing that you kind of deal a bit with the heirs of Castamere. So I kind of thought they were going to be pointing us that way anyway.
Oh yeah. I'm sure the heirs of Castamere are going to be major themes in where we're going next.
Just please don't make one of the heirs of Castamere be Jajax, because I don't want to have to kill him. I liked drinking with him.
Yeah.
I want to see him again, but him and his brother both.
Yes.
But Daxamat's fine. However, I don't want to have to kill him.
Right. Yeah, that I think a lot of people have that sentiment.
But remember, you never kill anybody in this game. You only defeat them. So he's not technically dead.
Oh, Sam. Not a cloud in the sky. The sun right in my eyes. What I wouldn't do for a nice dawnless day right now. Some people will complain about anything.
I would like to see Imloth mellowy under non-threatening skies. I would really love to see in that veil without, the Drek, as the Scots would call it.
Then let's then head into the third quarter, where we're going to have another further adventures. Now, what do you think would be a good candidate for further adventures?
Bingo Boffin!
All I know is if Bingo Boffin comes back yet again, I have a kinmate that might implode with annoyance.
Implode if another Bingo Boffin?
I think Bingo is amusing, and we learned in this the last time we dealt with him up in Yondershire that he's actually probably the sharpest tool in the Boffin toolbox. But
Well, see,
Yeah, I have a kin.
we
I have a
yeah.
kin fellow officer that will, just be livid if we have more bingo.
Okay. I think then if that sounds like to me then that Marigold needs a metal sword so that she can have a sharper tool.
Well, we didn't really see Marigold that much. I mean,
Well, yeah.
she was off actually doing the same kind of job she probably does in the Barrow Down, but she's like the one that wants to leave home and actually not be ridiculous. Anyway,
And anyway, we'll have further adventures with someone, and I've noticed that the first two, of course, then were Bilbo and the twins, and I'm wondering if the further adventures are going to be concentrating on people from books. So I'm wondering, is there anyone from the books that you could think of that could use some further adventures? Now, if we are in the South, would there be a further adventures perhaps for Faramir or someone like that?
I would love to help them with Ithilien. He and Eowyn. That
Yeah,
would be great.
I
How about
mean,
Tom Bombadil?
he do. Okay, yeah, no, he do.
Hey no, Harry no.
Yes, that's an interesting thought. Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, Tom and Goldberry helping them out.
Yeah,
He's just to the north of where we were.
I guess you got a point there. I mean, in fact, the Tolkien professor on one of his recent exploring Middle Earth, they decided that their job was okay. They met at the caravan spot, and what they decided to do was they decided to head to the old forest through the Cardolan area up there, go up the Withywindle to Tom Bombadil's house, and then go from Tom Bombadil's house, following the Withywindle and then the Brandywine down to Sarn Ford. So yes, he's really nice and close to where we're the latest update. So that's a possibility. Then there are of course more classic crafting updates. And also they said some delving updates, which means that they're probably adding more things to the delvings. I think they're trying to see if they can have some higher tiers of delvings. I don't know why. And maybe start to
They could
expand.
go to 11.
Yeah, they go to 11. Yes. So they could go to 11. Yes, that might be what they want. Yes, this delving goes to 11. And maybe start to add it to more missions and stuff like that. We'll find out what they mean, of course, in the summertime. Then
if they go to 11, you're guaranteed a die drop.
yeah. And they're also having the return of the Treasure Boogan.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Do you know how many unpaid parking tickets he has?
Probably too many. And finally, in the autumn, there will be a level cap up increase. They haven't announced how.
Okay.
But they haven't announced it yet. My guess is going to be 150 simply because it's a nice roundish number. Next, they said a new class.
Any hint at what it is? I'm trying to think of what they're going to do.
Absolutely
Nope.
no hint. But, well, actually, there is one. I think there was one slight hint, but I get the impression it's something that will fit to where we are going.
Maybe you can play a Treasure Boogan?
No. The Treasure Boogan was a summer thing. I'm wondering if it has something to. Yeah, I just wonder what would be, because I don't think they're going to have you playing a Corsair, because that doesn't sound like a the most heroic.
Oh,
Yeah,
what
and I
if you
don't
can
think
play your
Black.
monster character as an ally now?
I don't think Black Numenorian would be exactly something they would lean into either.
No, I don't think so. So I think we could scratch out those two possibilities. But I'm thinking what will fit in the area of Umbar that we could maybe think of as a possible class. Because, I mean, what classes are there left to have? I know, I think I said that before back when they were getting ready to introduce the Bjorning. And I certainly wasn't expecting the Brawler when that came out. But all right, we have our unarmed fighter. We've got our we got the yeah. I just can't think of any right now that would be something that will fit in Middle Earth and that would be reasonably different. And
What about maybe a class involving like a pack animal like Bill? Because Bill the Pony, you can't play any equivalent to Bill the Pony at this point. Can you detect them being a smarty pants at all? Or
I thought
I
that was your
agree.
default.
I can't think of what
yeah,
I
what
thought
they
that
would
was your
be going.
default, Krister.
It
yeah.
is. It is.
I was thinking.
How about a new racial class? We'll play as Woses. I want to be able to
don't
use
think
a drum to
I
communicate.
I don't think that they are going to give a racial variant that's a new class. Now, one of the things that he noted in here is that in addition to what's on the roadmap, they said that there are a couple of stretch goals that have not been put on the roadmap yet because they don't know if they're going to fit in their schedule. And one of those roadmap things are river hobbits. And it looks like river hobbits are going to be in the next race. So therefore, adding a human race variant that's also a class, I don't think will fit in with that plan, with that particular plan. So also, in addition to the level cap increase in new class, there will be a new instance and a new raid, of course. New instances and a new raid coming with that. And in case you haven't figured out yet, yes, this is an expansion that they're talking about here. And of course, new story area and crafting updates, a new crafting tier, new biomes because we are going to be on this in Umbar. So of course there will be all sorts of new assets that are going to be along with that. And while they have not officially said the expansion is all about Umbar, actually I think he might have said that pretty much said that on the stream that was on Friday. The biggest thing that we had related to this is the final paragraph of the letter is as we have wrapped before the shadow and began looking towards the future, we asked ourselves where we wanted to take the story and the game next. There was an overwhelming consensus that we wanted to head south to less traveled shores, across the salty sea, beyond the Bay of Belfalas, to the shore of the Corsair King's Umbar. And that, dear readers, is a tale for another day.
Oh, well, maybe they're going to be announcing ship combat, and the new class could be like a pirate or a corsair or a sailor.
Well, the trouble with that particular one is that someone asked during the stream relating to personal boats for players. And in that, he got the impression that is something that's considered on the stretch goal area. And if they were planning that a class that was around ships and boats and things like that, I would think that player boats would be a much higher thing on their list.
What about a boatening? like a Bjorning, a boatning. They can transform from human to boat. Wait a second, guys! I'll turn into a skiff. Yeah, okay, fine.
As large as Krister is, it would have to be like a John boat.
Yeah, it probably would just be like Minecraft's boats, where you want to build a big ship, but you only have this one little tiny little boat.
That's okay. Runt could still ride.
That's true. He could ride anything. You could put a thimble in the water; he'd have room.
The Further Adventures of Pine Leaf.
So,
No?
well, it'll be interesting. I mean, boat. That just sounds like a whole other. I would rather have them make war steeds more relevant than introduce a new. Okay, one exception. If I could trample in the boat, then I might be really interested in it. Then I could trample by land or sea, and I'd be very satisfied.
Trample with a boat.
Well, it's called keel hauling, frankly. I mean, if you want to get technical.
Well, yeah. Anyway, that is the roadmap for 2023, and of course, they will be fleshing it out because, as you know, as we went through deeper and deeper into the year, the details were less and less on what's going to happen, and that's because, of course, they haven't finalized everything to it. But right now, the concentration is probably going to be on the Q1 update, where we're going to get the Karn Doom update, the return to Karn Doom. We're going to get the school and library in with the delving system. We're going to have the Warden and Captain update there. We're going to have the power revamp. We're going to have the dumping of vocations, ill omens, and of course the Spring Festival, all coming up in that Q1 update. So that seems like it's going to be quite a bit for us to munch on when we get our next update. I'm guessing sometime early to mid-March. Any final comments on the roadmap before we go on? I will take that as a no then. So let's head into our store sales. What's on sale this week, Where?
This week it is Friends of Radagast. 25% off select pets and kites, select housing items, and select mounts now through January 26th. And the weekly coupon is a free 20% mount speed boost. The coupon code is Mount Haste, spelled out MOUNTHASTE, now through the 26th.
All right, thank you, Where? And that's it for our news this week. So let's head into our week in gaming. And Krister, what were you up to?
Well, this Friday we mustered another expedition to the Black Grave.
Ooh.
And you know what? There's a lot of poison in that adventure, and then there's also a lot of really angry clouds. And I've always been a proponent of happy clouds, like looking up into the sky and being happy that there's clouds there. But these clouds have really kind of tainted my view of clouds. But I did manage to get a nice teal ring drop. That now I've got 2 of the teal rings from that instance, and that has increased my morale, my stats quite a bit. That's why I'm really. It's so. It's always a frustrating mixed bag when you hear about level cap increase, because you're just like, oh, okay, well that would be cool, but just take a good hard look at everything I'm wearing now. None of this will be relevant anymore when the level cap increases. So
yeah, there is that.
And so in ESO, been having a lot of fun with the cosmetics, and I have they had a Minotaur cosmetic pack they released. I managed to create this amazing costume with the Minotaur head. I'm sorry, and so that's been a lot of fun. But I realized So my character is called Cord the Decapitator in that game, and so this, he's advertising his profession. So I thought it was really funny when I got the mount, the Halloween mount, where when he mounts up, he pulls his own head off and holds it like a pumpkin. But it was mentioned to me that about my herald having the pumpkin in her hand, and I realized that that's even more perfect. Not me being decapitated, but she's literally advertising my profession for me as we run around. So holding the head. Maybe it's my mascot. So, anyways, been having fun in ESO, and then I've been playing a lot of Satisfactory, which is it's just like why play a game about building a factory? Why don't you just go work at a factory? So maybe I'll go just actually get another job at a factory. But that game's a lot of fun. And then I've still been playing Civ 6 quite a bit. So, Guer, what have you been up to?
Well, my Hobbit Hunter is continuing in the Great River. Finished with Parth Celebrant and on to Rushcore. I'm very tempted. I allowed myself to go over the level 80 because I wanted to be able to reforge my allies and see if I got another slot. I did not. And yeah, I'm kind of at the point now where it's like I want to complete everything for deeds and for the virtue XP, but I also just kind of want to do the epic and go on into Rohan and get going with things. But I will soldier on. In ESO, I have found in the last few weeks that there's a delight that comes with being over champion point 1400.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm getting to the point now where I've got all of the passives that I need, and I'm just starting to look at, well, what might I want to switch out for other builds, like if I did PvP or something. So yeah, I'm starting to put points into those kind of things now. There are a few other things I could probably go ahead and tap into, but I pretty much have all the passives that are necessary, and it's feeling comfortable. I'm still somewhat squishy because I'm DPS. I'm not a tank, but I am having a lot of fun. One character I do have that's a little more tanky, or he feels a little more tanky, is the Nord Dragon Knight that I made to level during New Life. He is now level 50, 160 CP. So I bought him a house in the Rift, and I'm working on decorating that and having a lot of fun finding what kind of Nord or Solitude patterns I have that I can make and decorate the house, because I bought it empty for gold for relatively cheap. So I'm having fun, like you are doing the in-game thing of costuming in ESO, I'm doing housing. Pine Leaf, what did you get up to?
Right. I finally had a chance to actually do some serious play this week after having a couple of weeks where I had limited access to the game. So I first off got into my original version of Pine Leaf because I've been playing mainly my Langeville version of Pine Leaf and the Laurelin one I've been playing recently, but I actually had not played the version that was the first version I ever created and had been considered my main for a long time since before the Shadow was released, which means I had not yet played the new Skirmish on that character. I'm talking about the first character that got Skirmisher Middle Earth. So I've played on there, played Dumacaris Galebrin, and this was one of those runs where all the elves decided to defend the same side. And that is always a joy to it, especially when you came to that final wave coming in where you have 3 lieutenants and you have mobs coming in all from directions. So now here I am, the only person in these 2 sections here. And I had, I think, a Defender of the Vile, a Deathmonger, and a Shepherd of Filth, I think, also managed to sneak into there from the other group in there. That is a horrific group to have. I have to say that. Again, you have all these other trash mobs in the area, so selecting one of them is a real pain. So to to me, it's a non-trivial thing to be able to, okay, we just have to kill the defender of the vial in there, then quickly switch to the Deathmonger so that we can kill the Deathmonger and keep him from summoning any of those monsters in there, and hope that nobody hit the Shepherd of Filth so that the Shepherd of Filth wouldn't have summoned any of its nasty things to it. So inevitably what happens is you wind up with spirits and filth crawlers all over the place. Well, I didn't actually get any spirits I could think of, but yeah, filth crawlers, they were a pain all throughout there. So yes. So I had that joy to work with. Then on my Runekeeper, I quested in the Norcrofts and in the Intwash Vale, and I also hit 81, and of course had that wonderful disappointment of not having any new slots. Then my Lore Master ran quests at Herna and in Cardolan. So I think I just finished up the rest of the quests that are in that area, except for the one that eventually ends with the capstone in there. So I obviously haven't finished the capstone area in there. But I've made quite a bit of progress in Cardolan. And that was my week in LOTRO. So let's look at our news beyond LOTRO, where Darren Loremaster has another one of his tribute recordings in there, and this one is called Who's That Nazgul? And that is to the tune of Eurythmics, Who's That Girl?
Eurythmics.
Eurythmics, see, sorry.
What'd you say, eugenics?
I'm not sure exactly what he said. It wasn't eugenics, but yeah, I just
No, it was
that was
yeah.
my first thought was, oh, maybe to the Eurythmics. It's like I hadn't clicked over the link, but
yeah, Eurythmics, that is the correct answer on that. And let's with what we have this week. We currently have 13 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious array of players and help support LOTRO players, you go to the donations page to support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. If you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@LOTROplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Ally, LOTRO Players at LOTRO Players, Arendis at Arendis, Pineleaf at Pineleaf Neil, Sanswinda at Sanswinda, Terry Edwin at Terry Edwin, Guarendis at Guarendis, Calabathian at Calabathian, and Christopher at Entropy Engine 1. The Players Alliance has two shows. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join for our shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight then. This is Positive Goals reminding you to skirmish responsibly.